Same thing, just your full name and how you spell it.
My full name is Karthik Joshua Kota, Karthik, last name Kota.
Okay, and you're a third-year medical student?
Third year medical student. So I first got interested in medicine mostly because when we were talking about basically the cost of healthcare and what we're going to do about how we're going to take care of the baby boomers and all that, I thought, well, wouldn't that be a really interesting career, figuring out a way to keep people healthy, to keep them out of hospitals, keep them out of the doctor's office, a way to really support total health as opposed to health care. And I thought the best way to do that would be in medicine, actually seeing how it's done and then seeing what needs to be changed, what needs to be improved, what needs to be made more efficient. So, I mean, part of that is that for the last 3 years I've been in this club called Upstate, which is the local med students basically trying to figure out, med students, and also now we got like PhD students, we've got hopefully some nursing students come by, we had some perfusionists. The idea being, how can we look at what's going on, how can we make it better? Obviously we're not going to be doing a huge amount of projects, but at the same time what we're hoping is that we start people looking at things like, why is it done this way? How can we make it better? So that by the time that they're graduated, now they're in positions where suddenly their opinion matters a lot, they're still looking at things that way. They're like, how can I make this more and more better? And actually, I just wanted to plug one thing. We have a website that we're launching very soon, innovateupstate.wordpress.com.
Okay.
And we're really hoping to start launching in like a lot of blogs, a lot of projects that we're working on, projects that we have worked on to try to showcase what Upstate's doing to try to innovate itself.
Great. So tell me, they just instituted this pilot program involving the iPad in January. Can you tell me what your first reaction was when you heard that they were going to do this, and what made how did you wanted to get involved in it?
So I was actually kind of happy because my mom got me an iPad. Should I say she got herself an iPad 3, and she's like, well, I don't need this anymore. Why don't I just give it to my son? So I had this thing lying around, but I didn't really use it at all because I had no idea of how to use it. And what was nice when I heard about the project was like, okay, here's like a project that's going to give me a hook to start using this thing, and from there maybe I can get some more functionality out of it. So I mean, in that sense, I was kind of excited because I'm not, naturally tech inclined. I'm not that, I don't know how to code. I don't really understand how to connect to different computers or things like that. But whenever I'm given like a task of something I need to do, I can figure that out. And once I've got that hook, I can start trying to figure out more and more efficient ways to utilize it to make my time management skills better.
So, and it's sort of specifically geared, this program, towards helping you with your bedside manner, helping you interact with patients. Is this something that you feel like you were naturally inclined to, or do you feel like it's something that you wanted feedback on? How would you describe your instincts about that?
Well, I mean, I don't think I was as worried about my bedside manner. I've been told we have these things called OSCEs, and they're basically observed standardized clinical exams. They're trying to check to see how well you do with all the things. Bedside manner is one of them. I never had a problem in that portion of it, but there's a lot that goes on when you're sitting at the bedside besides just your bedside manner. There's also, did you ask all these questions? Did it make sense? Are you leading the patient? Are you putting words in their mouth? Are you interrupting them? When you're doing your physical exam, did you do this one technique correctly? I mean, we've got, reflex hammers and all those things, and one of the problems is that with that is, for instance, this is a tuning fork. If you hit it this hard, it's going to take a long time for it to stop vibrating, and there's a test where you're checking to see how long it's going to take for a patient to stop hearing something. When you have someone observing you when you're doing that, they can say things like, don't hit it so hard, or swing it this way, not this way. And what's useful about that is that when you're practicing doing something, if you practice the wrong way over and over and over, you're going to learn some bad physical exam skills. I actually see that with some of the residents and some of the attendings. And so one of the nice things about it is I'm hoping once it becomes more widespread, I can just FaceTime my resident back in neuro who taught me all these exams, like, hey, I'm still feeling a little bit rusty on this. Can you just watch me do these couple exams? And then he's like, yeah, I think that was pretty good, but you got to remember to make sure they extend the arm all the way. Stuff like that. That's what I'm really looking forward to in terms of this, and that's part of what I got already.
Yeah, can you kind of talk about how it's been so far. What kind of, in terms of it matching up to your expectations, and how the experience has been for your learning process so far.
So one of the issues is that I haven't really gotten a lot of the physical exam talk back yet, but that's also because I haven't done it that many times yet, and I haven't done it across a wide variety of spectrum. I'm in pediatrics right now. A lot of the exam is pretty simple when they're that small. You can't really do that much at the med student level. On the other hand, though, when I'm talking with the parents, it's useful to be able to tell, did I engage, because you have to engage two people in pediatrics. You have to engage the parent, you have to engage the kid, and you have to figure out, did I actually spend an appropriate amount of time with the baby as well as the parent, because you can't just ignore one side or the other. And you get to questions of, did I actually manage to get the full history, and did I miss anything that was important? One of the things that's kind of useful about the way that we're doing this kind of FaceTime is, when we're observing patients, the preceptor can actually, because we're on campus or even off campus, they have access to Upstate's electronic medical record system. They can look at the patient, they can figure out what's going on with the patient while you're talking with the patient. They can make notes and say, you didn't actually, and this actually happened to me, you didn't ask all these pertinent negative questions, which is actually really useful, because the main job of a doctor, at least at my stage, is what is the differential diagnosis? What are you going to do differently if the patient says, oh, by the way, I know I came in with fainting, but I also have this really bad headache in the back of my neck. That's a huge problem. And if you didn't think to ask the right question, it completely changes your management. You can end up missing something that's vital to this patient's continued living, even, not even just well-being. And so what was nice about that was that you kind of get feedback almost instantaneously. This is what you missed, this is what you didn't miss. You can go back in the room very shortly after, correct that stuff, so before you present off the patient to the rest of your team, they'll be knowing everything you're doing, so it helps you out on the floors look good. But the other nice thing is that people keep saying this, the way that they learn best was by experience, and it was by making that mistake and then getting corrected. And one of the nice things about this is that you basically kind of speed up the process. I don't want to find out what the correct way was doing it after the patient is dead, or after the patient had a complication. And when we get actually observed, there's maybe once or twice a unit that's of 5 weeks will actually be observed fully. How did you do everything? With this, you kind of have a chance to fail more often, and then you iterate on that. And that way, it's kind of more that when you get to the end of the clerkship, you are much more trained than you ever otherwise could have been. There's no time for a doctor to spend all his time just watching what his students are doing. And even when you're going through rounds, you really don't have that much time to be letting the senior doctor, the attending, you don't have time to actually watch the students do anything. You just go in, you get the information, you talk with the patient, you spend your time with the patient, but the teaching process is really outside the door. It's just talking about differentials.
And so this program's only been going on since January. So were you experiencing what it was like before this program? Was there a real difference in terms of, have you learned a lot more, would you say, in the last few months than you learned before in terms of, patient interaction and feedback on that? Because, can you kind of describe how you were getting taught this kind of thing before you started using the iPad?
Well, basically, this is actually funny. One of the things I'm going to put out right here is that when you get to the hierarchy of medicine, med students are at the kind of bottom of the pole. So when you want to get more training and more skills, you have to go and ask someone, hey, would you mind watching me do this? Or, do you have some time? I want to try this out. That's mostly what you would get on the floors. OSCEs, they're these observed standardized clinical exam encounters. They're a completely different beast. It's kind of fake. You don't really interact the exact same way as you would, because you'd be a little more matter of fact. The patient helps you a little bit. But if you want to really learn something on the floors, what you're going to do is you're going to be trying to grab someone who's busy trying to get all his notes done so that the attending is happy that he's not slacking off. Or you're going to be talking to a guy who has multiple responsibilities and you're trying to drag him out of his busy day. It can be a little intimidating to always want to try to get people to help you out that way. What's nice about this is that you can make appointments ahead of time. This is someone who has set this time aside, so you're not worried about interrupting anyone, and you're able to get that kind of back and forth. I don't think there's a huge difference in terms of me getting a resident or an attending to watch me do an exam versus having someone watch me through the iPad, except for the fact that I'm a lot more inclined to get that help because it's not something that I'm going to feel like, whoa, we've just been slammed with 6 admissions. Is this really the appropriate time to make sure I know how to swing a reflex hammer?
Right. Is there anything else that I missed that you think is important that people know about the program and about how it's, helping you as a medical student?
One of the things that's really useful about it is that there's a lot of functionality you can get out of having a little computer you can carry around that really can make a difference to the rounding process and to the learning process. So for instance, I have on my iPad, I had to talk to IMT about this, but that's information medical technology. But I was able to get access to the computer electronic medical record system on my iPad. I still have to log in, I still have to do all that stuff, but when we're walking around and the attending suddenly thinks, oh wait, what was this patient's lab values? I can grab it for them immediately. When we're trying to look up patient's imaging and we don't have access to a computer because someone else from a different care team is looking at it, or the computer on wheels, the cows are just not working, but they haven't been working for the last 2 weeks, you've got something right here where you can pull up that kind of information. That's really useful because you're starting to speed up how rounds go, so you allow more time for other things to happen in the day. The other nice thing about it is that when you're doing patient teaching, there's a lot of different apps that you can use to actually show patients this is what you'll be going home with, or this is what the disease process your kid is having. So I mean, for instance, there's this one app. Let's see, here it is. And I was actually able to use this recently. It's called Medical Draw, and you're able to show a patient an image of their kid's ear, and you're like, this is the exact part of this is the exact part of the ear that's inflamed right now. That's what I'm looking at, and that's what's red. Behind the ear, this area I'm kind of worried about being filled up with fluid. This is why we're thinking about draining it. This is why we're giving these kinds of. You're able to take something that you know really well, but the patient has no idea about, and you're able to make it more real for them. Other times I would do things like find images of the medications that we're sending them home on, or I'm taking an image of, or a video of a child breathing through a nebulizer, so they can see what the proper technique looks like, and they can have an idea of what's going on. So they can ask me the question right there, I'm kind of worried, how am I going to make sure the seal is going to be there when my kid's struggling all the time? Those are the kind of questions that they may not ask because they haven't tried anything out or seen it tried out in front of them, because there's no way of showing them with just you as the medical student or you as the doctor talking at them with a piece of paper. So that's really useful too.
Great. All right. We're good.
Okay.
Let's go to